Good day everyone, welcome to today's biology class. Our topic of today is plant nutrition and my name is Oyedeji Musbaudin. Now to the topic outlines, which will be our focus of today. We have the definition of nutrition, the types of nutrition, plant nutrition and photosynthesis. To the objectives, at the end of this lesson you are expected to be able to define nutrition, define photosynthesis, give the significance of photosynthesis both to plant and animal, and lastly you are expected to be able to state the factors and conditions that are necessary for photosynthesis to take place. Now to the main question, what is nutrition? Nutrition can simply be defined as the process through which living organisms acquire energy and material for life processes such as growth and development. Most of animals, they take in food in form of organic material. Through this we are able to acquire our own energy. But as for plants, how are they able to achieve their own? Nutrition is of two types. We have the plant nutrition and animal nutrition. For the plant nutrition, it is the process through which plants are able to acquire their own energy and material for their own use. And it's of two types. We have the autotrophic nutrition and the parasitic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition is the process through which green plants are able to synthesize organic compound from inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide and water, using sunlight energy and producing oxygen as the byproduct. And this process occurs mostly to chlorophyll containing organisms, which may also be an animal as well. Once you are having chlorophyll, you'll be able to photosynthesize and synthesize your own food. For example, Chlamydomonas, it can synthesize its own food on its own. And this autotrophic nutrition is of two types. You have the photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process through which chlorophyll containing organisms are able to synthesize organic compound from inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide and water, using sunlight energy and producing oxygen as the byproduct. An example of this is most plants. Most plants can synthesize their own food on their own, whether they are green or not, but mostly the green plants will be able to have a higher rate of photosynthesis than a non-green plant. Now for chemosynthesis, from the word chemical. In this process, chemicals is used as the source of energy actually, unlike the photosynthesis which is using sunlight as the source of energy. Chemosynthesis can be defined as the process through which organisms synthesize organic compound from inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide and water, using chemical as source of energy, chemicals such as hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, iron, etc. And most organisms that are found in these categories are mostly bacteria. For parasitic nutrition, parasitic nutrition is a condition in which a plant will grow on another plant to be able to derive water and nutrients from it for its own use, which will actually be harming the other plant, which is the host. An example of this are mosquito and doda. Looking at this chemical equation now is a summary of the process of photosynthesis. This is telling us that the carbon dioxide will be added to water in the presence of sunlight, chlorophyll and other enzymes as the condition to be able to derive glucose as the main product of photosynthesis, giving off oxygen as the byproduct. Photosynthesis can be divided into two phases. We have the light phase reaction and the dark phase reaction. As for the light phase reaction, this phase is light dependent. In other words, it requires light for it to be able to occur. Without light phase reaction will not be able to take place. Light phase reaction, it occurs in three main ways. The first step is the excitation of chlorophyll, second is the photophosphorylation, and the third step is the splitting of water molecule, which is otherwise known as the photolysis of water. For the excitation of chlorophyll, during this state, chlorophyll will trap light energy from sunlight and become excited by gaining more energy. Gaining this energy will cause it to lose an electron, which will be passed from one chlorophyll to another. This electron will go through a series of steps called the electron transport chain. Through this electron transport chain, we have a different level of energy. At these different levels, the electron is being passing through different energy level, energy are being released, which is used in synthesizing adenosine triphosphate, known as the ATP. For the second step of light phase reaction, we have the photophosphorylation. Photophosphorylation is divided into two. We have the cyclic photophosphorylation and the uncyclic photophosphorylation. For the cyclic photophosphorylation, the electron that is lost by the chlorophyll will be returned back to the chlorophyll in this process, which is the reason why we call it cyclic. The first electron transport chain will carry chlorophyll away from the chlorophyll. We carry electron away from the chlorophyll, the first carrier while the last carrier will take back the electron back to the chlorophyll to become stable. But for the uncyclic photophosphorylation, the electron that is being taken away from the chlorophyll, which is released, will not be returned back to the chlorophyll. For the chlorophyll to become stable, it will have to gain its electron from another means, which is from the photolysis of water. The electron that is produced there will actually be used to make this chlorophyll become stable. Now let's look at the splitting of water molecule, which is photolysis of water. I'm sure we all know that water's chemical equation is H2O. Water is actually represented as H2O, having 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. This H2O will be split into 2 ions, known as the hydrogen ion and the hydroxy ion. This hydrogen ion will be used in reducing the enzyme that is present, nicotinamide adenosine diphosphate, NADP, which will become NADPH, while the hydroxy ion will release electron to the chlorophyll to become stable, and it will be reconverted back to water, as we have seen on our screen now. This state now is making us to understand that oxygen is actually derived from the photolysis of water. During this process, oxygen that is being released during photosynthesis is gotten from water and not from carbon dioxide, as most of us would have thought. So now let's look at the dark phase reaction and let's see what happens there. During the dark phase reaction, as the name implies, dark, which means light is not required for this process to actually take place. It is light independent. It doesn't require light at all. Let's look at this cycle to be able to understand more about the dark phase reaction. This is called the Calvin-Benson cycle. This cycle made us to be able to divide this process into 3 main categories. At the first steps, it shows the carbon dioxide being incorporated into the ribulose biphosphate, which is a 5 carbon compound. And the second step is the NADPH being used to form a glyceride dihydrophosphate, which will actually be used in forming the glucose. While the third step, which is the last one, is the forming of the 5 carbon compound back again, so that the cycle will continue on and on. Now to look at it one by one. The carbon dioxide, which is an essential element that is needed for this process to take place, is being incorporated into a 5 carbon compound known as the ribulose bisphosphate. This will form a 3-phosphoglyceric acid, which will use the ATP that is being formed during the light phase reaction, as we have said. This will become a 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid. This 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid will also use the NADPH, which is also formed during the light phase reaction, which is telling us that the light and the dark phase reaction are actually interdependent. The product of one is being used as the source of energy for the other one. So to move on now, the 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid being formed at these second steps, at the first steps, will now be used in forming a glyceride dihydrophosphate. This glyceride dihydrophosphate can go in 2 ways. It continues on its cyclic movement, or it is being used to form a glucose. One part of it will be used in forming glucose, while the other 5 parts of it which is formed, we use the ATP in forming ribose bisphosphate again, which is actually the 5 carbon compound which we started with, and the cycle will go on and on. With this, we'll be able to understand a little bit of what actually happens during the dark phase reaction. Now to the uses of glucose, which is the main product of photosynthesis. This glucose is actually used during respiration. We all know that respiration is an active process, which means it requires energy for it to occur. So this energy that will be used during respiration will actually be gotten from glucose. And next is the remaining glucose can be converted or stored in form of starch. Also availability to other parts of the plant. Glucose make energy to be available to other parts of the plant because photosynthesis occurs mostly at the leaves or at the stems in young plants, which is also green. So when this is formed at the leaves, it will be transferred to other parts of the plant, which can only be done in this state, which is glucose. Glucose is the only form through which carbohydrate can be transferred within plants. Now to the significance of photosynthesis. It sustains life. Photosynthesis helps in sustaining life by providing the energy that is being needed for life processes both by plant and animal. Also, it helps in the purification of the atmosphere by using up the carbon dioxide, which is toxic in the environment. That means more photosynthesis being taking place will actually help in purifying the environment. The third one is provision of oxygen for use by animals for respiration. The oxygen, which is an essential commodity for animals' respiration, we actually gotten from photosynthesis process. And lastly, other substances such as protein, fat and oil and vitamins are synthesized from glucose. Glucose can actually be used in forming all these other classes of food, which are very, very important depending on the need of the plant at that time. Now to the factors affecting photosynthesis. Number 1 is suitable temperature. There's an optimum temperature in which photosynthesis can take place at a very good rate. A very low temperature will slow down photosynthesis, while a very high one will denature the enzymes that is present for photosynthesis to take place and which actually hinder photosynthesis. Light intensity is also a very good factor because a very low light intensity will slow down photosynthesis, while a high intensity will actually improve the process of photosynthesis. Soil water as well. The amount of water that is being present in the soil for use by plants will also determine the rate at which photosynthesis will take place. Carbon dioxide is actually the compound that is only through which plant can derive its carbon that is needed for this process to take place. No matter the amount of carbonate compound that is present for plant will not be actually be useful unless it is in this form. Now to the conditions that are necessary for photosynthesis. We have the internal and the external conditions. The internal conditions, they are the mineral salt, chlorophyll, enzymes. These conditions, they must be present in the plant, while the external conditions are the conditions that are present in the organism surroundings or that are present in the environment for use, such as water, light, and carbon dioxide. Carnivorous or insectivorous plants. These are green plants which actually carry out photosynthesis, but due to their deficiency in nitrogen, they are unable to get this nitrogen, which they can only get it from killing or digesting insects. They use different means or mechanisms for attracting these insects, and they also possess an enzyme, the secret enzymes, which actually help in digesting the insect. Such plants are sundew, bladderwort, butterwort, Venus flytrap, and pitcher plant. Now to the assignment. This assignment is for you to assess yourself on your understanding of this topic. The first is define photosynthesis. Second is state the importance of the following to photosynthesis: carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, and ATP. Third is state the significance of photosynthesis to man, and the fourth one is give 3 examples of carnivorous plants. And if you are finding any of these difficult, please try to go over the videos again for more understanding. And you can submit your assignment to this email below, training@educom.ng. Thank you for watching.